Welcome to the Introverted Doctor podcast, dedicated to uncovering myths, mistakes, and misconceptions that hold healthcare professionals back from having better interpersonal relationships with their patients and colleagues. In each episode, we focus on different aspects of a doctor's professional life, such as communication techniques, mindset, routines, habits, and behaviors, with the goal to show how to eliminate anxiety, trip-ups, and unwelcome results that come from ineffective communications. I'm your host, Dr. Lalit Chawla, and happy holidays. I hope this year has been exceptionally well for you and your loved ones, and that you are moving towards your personal aspirations. I certainly realize that that's not going to be the case for everyone. This year you may have seen some challenges. I know a couple of friends of mine who've had significant illnesses and who've also had close family members pass away or are recovering from an injury that has certainly been impactful. And it creates a lot of reflection about what's truly important in our lives. I also know in different times in our life that we struggle with challenges, whether it's personal health or our relationships, or with family members, or at work, or sometimes getting work. Sometimes we ask the question, is this all there is to life? Are things going to change for the better? Why am I so bored in my life? Have you ever asked that question? I know that I have at different times in my life. When things are bad, you tend to get worried and anxious. And when things are good, you can get comfortable. But both states teach us something. When we're worried or anxious, those emotions increase our awareness by helping us know that we need to change something in our lives for the better. We may need help or revisit areas in our life, and that's old strategy of communicating or doing things that worked before may simply not serve us anymore. We need to learn new ways to evolve. After all, we're not the same person we were a year ago or years ago, and the people and the environment we live in also has changed. When things are good, we also need to use those times to build and learn ways to help with the tough times that will definitely come ahead. And that certainly is inevitable in everyone's life experience. The challenge is when things are too good in our lives, that is when we get complacent and may not ask questions such as, how can I be better personally? Am I reaching my full potential? How can I help others reach their full potential? What can I do to leverage the resources around me and find my purpose and live life to the fullest with greater meaning? Comfortability can make us oblivious as to what we truly are meant to do for ourselves and others in our circle of influence. So uncomfortable emotions serve a purpose because it's your internal voice saying, you can be better and watch out for that hazard ahead of you. The one question I'll ask you is, what do people want from their life? My belief is that people want to have full joy and prosperity and health, personally and with the people they connect with. They want to live with greater presence and purpose. They want an abundance mindset and not live in a scarcity mindset and succumb to fear. One of the significant obstacles to feeling content today, more than ever, is that we live in a world where we evaluate success with things that we accumulate or have acquired or accomplished, such as a new car or a new phone, or I've accumulated more money, I had this luxurious vacation or this promotion, or I've spoken at more conferences, etc. Then we get into this ever-chasing cycle of happiness somewhere ahead of us and not right with us or next to us in the day-to-day moments. The most meaningful things in our lives are not measurable, such as our relationship with our coworkers, the laughter we have with good friends, the smiles and experiences with our families. I mean, how do you measure that? What price do you put on that? We can forget those things that actually give us joy, and it's only when we lose them do we realize, gosh, that really is what is most important. If I were to ask you, what is one of the most important things you've received joy from in the last year or month, what would that be? Think about that. Even pause this podcast and ask yourself that significant question. I'm willing to bet that it's the positive experiences you've had with others or self-improvements you've made within yourself. Relationships and experiences are the things we remember. Even when we get something like a new car or gadget or an accomplishment, we share that with others. That sharing is what amplifies the joy and connection we feel. And the relationship you have with yourself is the most important and first relationship that you have to foster and nurture continually. When we are well personally and connected with ourselves, we can be better connected with others. It's like when you're on an airplane and the oxygen mask comes down, you have to put it on yourself before assisting even your children. That self-connection and improvement is the skill and something we can learn to amplify, which requires constant conditioning. You know, if you don't build that muscle of self-image, self-resilience, you lose it. You forget what it is that makes you innately remarkable. At this time of year, the two questions I get asked is, one, how do you end the year and prepare for the new year? And second, how do you balance the equation of accomplishing tasks and goal setting and avoid the feeling of chasing something in the future, yet learning to be present with the people and enjoying the momentary things that happen in your daily life? So I'll answer the first part in this podcast. So in December, I always at the end of the year recap major events that have happened, things that I have been excited about, and especially things that have been challenging. It reminds me to keep a growth mindset. I think about the things I've learned during the year, what went well, what did I learn from those experiences, what people in my life am I excited about, what new people did I meet and was glad to meet. Basically a year recap, and I'll share with you my strategy and why I did this. I started this about 5 years ago because when I would think back to what happened in the last 2 or 3 years prior, I couldn't really recall the highlights or lessons I learned. Do you ever ask yourself the question, what did I do this past year? Or what major events happened even 2 or 3 years ago with myself, my work, or family members? I don't know if you fall into this camp of thinking, but when I look at old photographs, I think, wow, yeah, we went to that wedding, or we saw that moment, or that monument, and we had that moment and that experience here. I remember that. And then you relive those moments through the photographs. So I decided I needed to do a little summary sheet that really that was like a highlight reel of what I did each year. Plus it serves another purpose, which I'll get into. So what I do is I have a big 18-month calendar, and each month I put it on an 8x11 sheet, and I have it laid out chronologically, January, February, March, and so on. And I put it on a 3x4 foot corkboard in my home office. This visually lets me know, in terms of planning, what I need to do in the coming year and what steps I need to do to prepare. It also lets me know what I need to schedule to maintain greater health, greater relationships, and the career goals too. Now, just as importantly, when the year is over, I can look back and literally see where the time went. I can see how I used that time, and then I can usually take one colorful sheet of paper and I write the year on the top, and I list the 15 or more major events in the year by looking at each month. And I think of it in terms of family goals, health goals, career goals, and passion projects. So for example, this year I coached my son's soccer team. It's not really a highlight, but my daughter broke her arm. It was an important event. I spoke at many medical conferences which focused on physicians' health and communication. I started this podcast. So those were really some highlights. I also include quotes that motivated me and kept me moving forward. For instance, one of the quotes for this year was from Zig Ziglar. And his quote was, "You don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great." That motivated me to start this podcast and kept me going, along with the kind words I received from listeners and colleagues. I've been really glad that I started this podcast because for many months, actually probably about a year and a half, I was just waiting to get better, waiting to be more organized or to find time. But I actually was delaying the process because of fear. The fear that I wasn't going to do a good enough job. But that quote pushed me forward to do something that I was really nervous about doing, and I wanted to step out of my comfort zone to do it. Performing on stage or lecturing in front of a live audience is so much more different than talking to a camera and trying to articulate the ideas that you really want to bring across. And not performing magic tricks, totally a new element for me and something that I've really had to learn and step out of my comfort zone. So here's a question for you. Is there a project, big or small, that you really want to do? Is there something personal you'd like to improve, whether it's your health, career, or relationship-wise, with your family? What's holding you back? What would you like to save by this time next year in those areas of your life? If you've had a difficult year, know that tomorrow is a new opportunity, and there are many great people and organizations that want and need you to succeed, and they're there to help you out. We don't have to live in the past unless we choose to, and tomorrow's always a new opportunity to be better. It's all about making choices and getting help, and we all need help to become better, and we all need to work together to do that. Another quote that kept me going this year was, "Be patient with the process." Sometimes we rush and want to see results quicker, especially in this fast-paced society where we see people on Facebook and they're putting on images about the amazing life they live, and we can sometimes feel inadequate. But that quote reminds me of the bigger picture about what you are doing and thinking about your purpose. Everything we do, we have to take it moment to moment and cultivate each step and practice that habit of choosing wisely at each point, because it's a skill, it's a muscle set we develop. The other important thing I do is that I look back and I think about what I've been grateful for. Gratitude is the single mindset habit that fuels everything we do. It's been scientifically proven that grateful people are happier, less sick, more resilient, get better jobs, accomplish more, you name it. What are some of the things you can be grateful for? Even if you don't feel like answering that question now, what could you be grateful for if you looked hard enough and really thought about it? Gratitude is the fuel that gives us positive energy. And when you have that mindset, you wake up wanting to share and do things that is inherent to your living purpose. That is what gratitude does. You just can't help but then just go out there and contribute. This year, I've been grateful to have met so many wonderful people in my life, more than usual. I think of the wonderful people who've commented on the podcast and connected with me, and I'm grateful for that, and thank you for doing that. I'm also very grateful for all the gracious people that I interviewed for the podcast. Mark Bowden, who taught about the myths, mistakes, and about body language, from the wisdom of Dr. John Crosby, and to the incredible life lessons by Dina Moitoso, who gave us tremendous lessons on how to help people in the grieving process, and her teachings of all the issues and psychology around suicide. And of course, my good friend Roger Love, the celebrity voice coach to the Hollywood stars, and his invaluable lessons on how to use our voice to really connect with people, and the fun time I had with him in Hollywood. So that was a real blessing. And then I think about, what can I be excited about for the future? New people that I'll be meeting, especially for this podcast. I'm super excited about them, and I know you will enjoy them too. I think about the new lessons, the new goals that I would like to learn in the upcoming year. I really believe we should plan things that we can look forward to. This creates unique momentum and drive, and it allows us to be looking forward to something. So in summary, I encourage you to look at some of the big events in your life and simply create a one-pager about the highlights in this past year. This way, when you look back, you can see what you did and you can have a collection of them. A little tip, I actually email them to myself, and this is a nice filing system, so it's easily accessible. I really want to thank you, the listeners, for listening and contributing. I also want to thank my good friend Cameron for his work as a videographer and podcast producer. I mean, you're awesome. And I also want to thank my friend Will Brown for his editing work that he's done on the blog components and his feedback. And I finally want to say with all my heart that I hope you will be able to spend time resting and recuperating with friends and family. I'll be using this time to reflect on the past year and plan for the future. And I'll be taking a couple weeks off from the podcast, and I'll be rejoining you in the beginning of January. And I hope you'll join me in making your next year the best it's ever been, and that this time next year, you'll be better than you ever were now. Make the holiday season awesome, and may the holiday season be kind to you and be full of magic and wonder. I hope to see you in the new year. Happy holidays and a very Merry Christmas.